Using existing buildings in our construction projects is even more important these days as everything is pointing up. Inflation, interest rates, construction materials, labor costs, everything's pointing up. So if you're trying to develop a building, build a building for your business or open your next location or renovate a space, like whatever it is, it used to be a lot easier to sort of, balance out, well, should we build, should we renovate? Like it often with I'm really generalizing, but often it wasn't like a huge deal. But today, I think even more than ever, and I'm seeing this with my clients, that the financial planning and analysis we do at the beginning of a project really is critical because it often means and often suggests, hey, if you want to actually afford this project, or if you want the business to actually be able to support itself with the debt it takes to build it, we need to understand that earlier because the numbers have been going up. I mean, back in 2022, the cost of materials went up by 27% in one quarter. So, and there's other videos about that on the channel. But the point is that these are big numbers and they're changing the math in terms of how we use existing buildings. This is a great article with a whole bunch of charts that I'll be linking to. But the point is that, for a long time, the sort of rate of construction cost would always be a little bit ahead of CPI or inflation or GDP. But, over the last few years, it's gone way up beyond that. So the math has changed in terms of what it costs to build things right now. So if the building that you were building in 2010, say it's the same building, but the cost of it has just gone up and up and up. And, increasingly in the last 2 years, it's gone way up. The question is the amount of money that you're bringing in per month, is that going to still cover it? Or is it actually, somewhere below that? And if that's the case, then all of a sudden now you've got a situation where you're not bringing in enough money per month to cover the initial build out that it takes to open your business. And so how can we try to keep that number a little bit lower so that we can actually, keep our initial investment below so that we actually, can be in the sort of happy zone where we're actually still able to make enough money as a business after the investment of the building itself. And so that's where, if it costs a certain amount to build a new building, again, that has just increased at a very large percentage, greater percentage than normal over the last few years. So we just really have to look at existing stuff because proportionally the value of an existing building is worth more because it already exists. So you just think about like the cost of a brick. If the cost of a brick has gone up so much in the last few years and last few decades, then the cost of this brick is probably worth more in something existing than if it's being built new because this is like such a premium on it. So what I'm seeing a lot of is the idea that, hey, if we can find an existing building, and renovations have been around for a while, I'm not saying anything new, but what I'm saying is that the FP&A, the financial planning and analysis, where you balance the initial build out cost for your building with, you balance that on the other side with how much money you're going to be making per month, that's where we need to figure out, how much we can actually spend. And that's where by doing things like this, by really looking more seriously at existing buildings, doing the work, putting on the new roof, doing the build out, whatever it is, the point is that we're really seeing that this is the way that the math becomes good because you're lowering your initial investment and you're sort of able to say, yes, like that, we're not having to charge some ridiculous, like, I don't know, like some ridiculous rate to get enough people in there to make it work. Because that's the reality of it, is that like in a lot of industries, you just can't charge enough. Your monthly membership, whatever it is, the chances of you or how much you have to charge for food or like a user or a visit or whatever, like, are they going to be willing to invest that? And in a lot of cases, I think that's where people get into trouble is they overinvest, they spend too much money, like too much. And then they assume that the amount people are willing to pay per month or whatever is, something that may not be possible. And then all of a sudden, now you're in a situation where you've invested too much and like, is it going to balance out? Like, it really might not. And that's really where existing buildings, I think, are even more valuable if you can get them. And there's a lot of things that we need to be careful with. Existing buildings can be money pits. They could look like they might fall down. They might fall down. If you're leasing a building, you want to be extra careful about what you're on the hook for. You don't want to be on the hook for the shell of the building if the thing starts falling down, if it needs all new windows or a new roof. In an existing building, you're leasing the inside space, not the shell of the building. That's the landlord's asset. If you're buying a building, you also, same thing, you want to be aware of what might need to be done to the building to bring it up to code or make it accessible or structurally maybe fix it, which, these are all things that can become real problems. Like if you end up buying something that needs too much structural work, you might really be in a situation where you owe more or you end up spending more just to do that than the building is even really worth. In some cases, that might be okay if you're going to hold on to it for a long time or something like that. But in a lot of cases, that's just not the position you want to be in. So you do have to be careful. And like the adage in real estate of you make your money when you buy, I think is true in the sense that if you do buy a building that needs a lot of work, as long as you can get it at a low enough price where you're comfortable with the risk that it will take to do the build out and still get it to a point where you want it to be. That's where being really smart with our development, strategic with our build out, careful with the engineering and all that kind of stuff can still work. So it's not about one answer of get an existing building or build ground up, because it just completely depends on your situation and the building. Every single time it's going to be different. But the point is that with the math, with money being so expensive right now, even just borrowing money, buying materials, getting labor, it's just really tough. And so the math has changed and we just have to look at it a little bit differently. And that's really, again, that financial planning and analysis, that's what balancing that is really all about. And so if this is helpful, drop a comment or reach out. Thank you very much for watching.